Well, hello, I'm here with Caitlin to talk about the Wi-Fi home alarm system and other things. It's Tuesday, July 9, 2024, and Caitlin, you're on first.
Thank you. And I want to apologize. I wanted to come back earlier. I've been swamped with work this year. And then I had a trip to, of all places, Dublin, Ireland. So I was in Ireland for a week
Did you
and I
like it?
came, oh, it was absolutely beautiful.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, one of the places I visited was Broome Bridge. And Broome Bridge is famous because the guy who invented the quaternion, the mathematical quaternion, invented it on that bridge. And there's a little plaque. And for some reason, I was the only one there making the pilgrimage. But I did see it, and that was pretty cool. So,
What is a
and the
quadrant?
bridge,
I've heard of it, but I don't know it really.
right. So a quaternion is a 4D vector, but it describes rotation in 3 dimensions. And what's really cool is that all the sort of IJK and
L.
L components, I guess. Yeah. They all equal 1. And you can use it to essentially like point a instead of like, so if you were to rotate like a 3D object traditionally, you would say this is the rotation around the x-axis, this is the rotation around the z-axis, this is the rotation around the y-axis. But with the quaternion, and then you just have to trust me that the math just does not work very well eventually. Like you're just going to run into problems. A much easier method is to use a quaternion. And so you can think of it, the quaternion pointing in the direction of the rotation. So you can point this way, and you can rotate by essentially turning the quaternion. So it's really useful in computer graphics and a bunch of other important mathematical vector calculus type stuff. So
Good.
yep. So that was 2 weeks ago, and then I came home with a gift, the flu.
Ah,
So last week I was just in bed 24/7, spend 4th of July in bed. That was fun.
hmm.
But I am back. I'm back, and I have a gift. I have a gift for everyone.
Oh, well,
Neural networks for babies
babies
by
already have neural networks. They might not
I
know.
know, I know, and we're going to teach them all about their wonderful neural networks in this book, Neural Networks for Babies, by
Hmm.
Chris Ferry and Dr. Sarah Hayes Kaiser.
Well, oh my, this is a ball.
This is a ball.
Well, I'm
Yes.
I, I'm following it so far. This is a neuron.
And
Okay, that's a bit of a
yes,
jump, but all right.
yes, this is a neuron. It sends messages throughout the body.
Yes.
Let's see what's next. Give the neuron input and output, and it can help us learn. Give the ball input and output, and it acts like a neuron.
Now, just a damn minute. That ball doesn't have an input and an output.
It does now. You can use your imagination. The neuron can have one input and output,
Mhm.
or many. You can have many inputs and many outputs.
They only have one output. There's an axon. I'm
No, no,
already.
no. How do we do this? Okay, there we go. You have 3 vectors in, 3 vectors out.
I have technical complaints about this book.
Okay, so is there a red animal in the picture? What do you think, Sam?
Well, I would say yes, but I'm cheating. I'm using a far more advanced neural network to do that.
Yes, you're using your own neural network. The
Yes.
neural network can decide based on the input. And so you see it breaks up the image into little parts. And it says, this one looks like it's red. This one looks like it's also red, but this part of the image is blue. If I can point to it correctly,
Mm-hmm.
that's blue. When the neuron has an answer, it says, "Oh, look, it's red, 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 a little bit of blue. Oh, it's going to be red, right?" It sends its own message. So the ball neuron says red, 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 because it sees red. Does the animal have 8 arms?
Oh boy.
The neuron can decide based on its input.
Yeah, and
So
since it
once
has
again,
multiple outputs, it can say yes and no. What the hell?
exactly.
What the hell kind
Yeah.
of
It can look at this part of the image and says, oh,
Yeah.
here's two arms. Look at this part, says,
Uh-huh.
here's two arms.
Yeah.
Here's two arms. And how many are these, Sam? Up
Yeah.
in up in the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I see what they're doing, but that's not how it works. However, yeah. Yeah. And it has an
When
answer.
the when the neuron has an answer, so two plus two
That means
plus two
that means
plus two.
it'll now have 8 axons coming out of it, apparently.
Yes, it says the answer is eight. There are eight.
Yeah, and it has 3 axons, which makes no sense at all.
It sends its own message. 888.
So why does it multiple output since they always put out the same thing?
That's a good question. Where do the messages go? Is basically what you're saying.
Yes, you could
So we
say
have
that.
red, 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 888. Where does it go?
Oh, well, oh,
Neurons talk to each other and connect
okay.
together in a network.
Yeah, okay. Well, in that case, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're only looking at one neuron. Now we saw many neurons.
Uh-huh.
Input neurons look at part of the picture. So
Well, that's
there's
fair
input
enough.
neurons. Yep, input neurons right there that look at
Yeah.
part of the picture.
Yeah.
Output neurons have the answer about the picture. So at the
Uh-huh.
other end, there's
Yeah.
answers about what the
Well,
pictures are. So in this case,
yeah.
it sees that there is a starfish, a wheel, and what's that? Use your own neural network, Sam.
A
What's
gold star.
a gold star? Exactly. And you deserve a gold star because you figured that
Uh-huh.
out.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Neurons
Queen, right.
in between don't see the pictures
Okay.
or give the answers. They're hidden.
Well, this part is much better.
Yes, they're
Part is
hidden.
actually even correct and useful.
Yes. Yes. So they're just doing what we call transformations. Do you know, can you say transformation, Sam?
Yeah, but not sure that's a fair statement. Anyway, go ahead. I'm again having
Let's see.
worried about the technical accuracy at this point. How do they learn
Um,
to decide? Yeah, effectively, how
yeah.
do they learn? Now, this is
How do they learn to decide?
explain
That's a good.
stochastic gradient descent to baby here.
Yes. Training data can
And
have
have,
correct labels on them.
yes, it can.
So this says it's blue and it has
Yeah,
8 arms. This says it's green and has 7 arms.
yeah.
This is yellow and has 5 arms.
Uh-huh.
And this is red and has 5 arms.
There you
So it
go.
knows what the correct answer is ahead of time and you can train on it.
Yep. After training,
After training,
yeah,
the
okay.
network has learned to label the new pictures.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that part.
Yeah. A really big network can help solve even harder problems with the help of computers.
Well, I suppose, yes. Now you know
You
neural.
now know networks.
Well, okay. I'll buy that. That's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
That's
Baby's first neural network.
well, as scientific education go, it's not bad. It
Yeah.
does teach you several useful concepts in a fairly easy way, with only a
Yeah.
few strange things mixed in, but you can't have everything.
It definitely oversimplifies,
Well, you got to do.
but
Besides, so do neural networks. They oversimplify a lot.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. I
Oh,
hope you
good.
enjoyed my reading today.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's quite on. And AI is always a big topic. This is great.
Yeah, everyone's grifting. I'm hoping that some of the bubble will burst sooner rather than later because it's a little dangerous right now with the money being poured in
Yes.
to AI.
And people trusting the output is what really worries me.
Yeah, I mean, I still stand behind AI as a useful technology,
Sure.
unlike some other things like the blockchain.
Well, it's at the peak of the Gartner hype cycle, so it's worth
Yeah,
about 1/4 of what people think it's worth right now.
exactly. But we will be using AI every day, but
Sure.
it's not going to be something where you're paying, $10 a month for an AI bot or whatever. It'll be just like the way you've always used text prediction on your phone.
Yeah.
It's going to be stuff like that, just in the
Yeah.
background doing stuff. It's
And all the
useful.
managers are not going to be able to hire 3/4 of their staff and replace them with AI like they think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the news.
Yeah.
Let's go to the news. So Ars Technica has an article by Ashley Bellinger who has been on our podcast before, or at least been mentioned on our podcast. She hasn't shown up. She should come on. Come
Yeah.
on, Ashley. Come on to the podcast. Anyway, first known TikTok mob attack led by middle school schoolers tormenting teachers. So what's going on? Well, apparently some middle schoolers like created like 22 fake accounts and started going after their school teachers and harassing them online, which is a wonderful amount of computer hacking and doxing and a whole bunch of stuff going on that would be a great learning experience if it wasn't so just gosh darn terrible, unfortunately. So, um, let's see. Yeah, so it was a wealthy Philadelphia suburb because you know it's going to be wealthy because the kids with the resources do all this stuff with the computers. They're going to be wealthy. Um, and it mostly happened on TikTok, of course, because that's what the kids are on. And it was with the Great Valley Middle School. They created, like I said, at least 22 accounts that impersonated at least 20 teachers. Let's see, and yeah, they did some really bad stuff. I'm not going to mention because I don't want to get this video demonetized or anything. I don't know if you monetized the
That's
video,
nothing's
but
monetized anyway,
yeah,
but they've impersonated the teachers and had the teachers do horrible things,
yeah,
which is
exactly.
a little more than the usual bullying.
Right, but this time it was the students bullying the teachers, which
I
was
know.
very impressive. I am deeply impressed that the students did this, but also kind of horrified. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's what's going on.
Well, you
Brave
could
New
get
World.
somebody in real trouble that way if they believed it.
That's true. That's true. And I don't think middle schoolers are sophisticated enough to do any sort of, deep fakes.
Yeah.
But when it becomes easier, we'll start seeing middle schoolers doing deep fakes of not only their teachers, but also of their friends and stuff,
Right.
which
And
won't be
their little enemies, which is probably the real risk.
right. And their little enemies, they'll make, you know,
Yep.
yeah, not good stuff. They're
Yeah.
kids.
Certainly coming. Yeah. That's why I don't think any of this is really new. The technology is a little new, but this stuff happened. I remember when I was a kid, they would scroll things about the teacher on the bathroom wall. You know, it's essentially the same thing.
Y- I I think the internet makes it a bit worse.
Right. That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the social networks mean you can impersonate the teacher and try to implicate the teacher for doing something awful, which you can't easily do with lower tech techniques.
exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
you could get a teacher fired
Well,
if
see,
you're clever enough.
this is why everyone should pay $8 to Elon Musk and have a verified check mark so we know who they are.
Exactly. There you
That's
go.
Vladimir Putin's solution to this too. End internet anonymity. Anonymity. Everyone has to prove who they are all the time. That would solve all
Exactly.
our problems. Have a few
It,
minor
it,
side effects.
yeah, I mean, I've sort of given up on online anonymity. After all, people know my ham radio call sign, and if you go
Yeah,
on the FCC, you can
sure.
look at my home address. I've given up on anonymity on the internet.
Yeah,
And you know what? That means that when I'm on the internet, I need to be authentic and I need to be truthful
yeah.
because everything can be tied back to me, and that's not so bad.
Yeah, I remember when I started teaching hacking, I thought about this and I said, well, the best thing to do is just be absolutely public about everything. That's my plan.
Yeah,
Under my real name, there. Now that's done.
exactly.
I'm not going to be hiding and all that garbage. Whatever I did, I really did it. I'm right here. Anybody could find me anytime if they wanted to yell at me or something. Let's have it, you know.
Yeah, and once you know OSINT, you know that it is impossible to really hide. Um, just the other day, I
Yeah.
had some questions about some YouTuber, and I was able to use standard OSINT tools to figure out where they were working and who they really were and stuff. And I mean, it was, you just can't hide that stuff anymore. It's all
And if you
open.
want to be a professional and have a professional reputation, you can't be hiding.
Exactly, exactly. If you are, I mean, kids can be anonymous online,
Right.
but when you are online and you have a profession and a career, then you're going to use your real name, and people can use that to get your address and
Yeah, and
your phone number.
that's why I like the European privacy law that says kids can have their stuff erased. That seems quite
Yeah.
reasonable. You should be able to
Yes.
erase everything you did when you were a kid, but when you're an adult, then you are building reputation, and online is a big part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of AI stories. Um, the head of Anthropic has pointed out, so the current models, I've heard of models cost $40 million to train. Now he says the current models take only $100 million to train, but he expects them to start soon. They'll have models that cost $1 billion to train, and he says soon they'll have 100 billion models cost to train models. And this, I think, is just part of the usual garbage that comes out of Silicon Valley. They think, just like every boom, it has gone up by a factor of 100 in the last year. So they think it's going to keep going up at this rate. And as we were saying, I think before we started recording, I think everybody's already beginning to notice that you pour billions of dollars into AI, and what do you actually get? The answer is not much. And the last podcast, there was a Gartner prediction that said they have figured out that AI is going to increase the productivity of American workers by 0.5% over the next decade. And another more favorable analyst says, no, it'll be 9% over the next decade. So in both cases, it doesn't justify spending 100 times as much as we're spending now for whatever incremental gain you're going to get. I think this is a fantasy. But anyway,
Yeah, the main issue with integrating a lot of this ML stuff is that it does not engineer well. And what I mean by that is that when you engineer things, you need a clear input and you need a clear output. And unfortunately, when you have something like machine learning, you get fuzzy outputs. And that makes engineering with it very difficult. So it's very difficult to take a really cool piece of technology and commoditize it into a way that people can use it and buy it and subscribe to it.
yeah, and
You,
I think Microsoft is doing this, and they're finding ways to make it more reliable, but that means you have to put more and more effort and more layers of tests on everything. And so, I think just like everything else, it's reaching the peak of the Gartner hype cycle where you just assume it's going to keep getting better, much better, and now it's not really getting much better at any reasonable price, and you're going to have to sort of lower your expectations.
yeah, and I do want to give a very special raspberry um to the Bitcoin people and the crypto bros for really ruining people's expectations and tech hypes because
I think it was the same
people
as every other tech field.
no, I mean the dot com, remember there was the dot com bubble and the internet was big and it ended up being big, right?
But
Even
you
though it
remember,
was
remember when the dot coms came out in like around 95, it was going to end war and bring about peace and joy
yeah,
for everybody. That was the same as Bitcoin was somehow going to end all poverty and save us all.
yeah, it was definitely overhyped.
Yeah.
But people knew that there was something there, right? And we're still using the internet today. It's a big thing.
Well, yeah.
And most of other hypes were that way. But then the stupid blockchain came out, and no one knew how to use it or do anything with it. And people were saying it's going to revolutionize the world, and they became Bitcoin grifters. And then overnight, when generative AI became, people started noticing that, they just jumped over to that, and it just makes people think, oh, this is just to grift.
Yeah.
And so it makes it really difficult to sort of have good conversations with non-technical people about these new technologies that are coming out because there's just too many grifters willing to overhype, technologies that don't go anywhere.
Well, they follow the same timeline as the tulip, you know, bubble in like the 1600s. So I think it's just that every new thing has this same property.
Yeah, but there's a people the way people are discussing AI now that I've seen online
Yeah.
are very much influenced by what they saw in crypto and the blockchain. That
Well,
it's nothing. It's not going to amount to anything. We're not going to be using AI. This is stupid,
oh,
and
well, that's
and
ridiculous. I mean,
yeah, and it
it's
is
got some
ridiculous. Yeah,
value. It's
it
clearly got some value.
yeah,
It's
it
just,
has a lot of value,
yeah.
and a lot of the value is not what you're going to be directly using it for. You're going to be using LLMs and stuff moving forward. That's fine, but what you won't see is like machine learning in like scientific fields, where it's doing things like protein folding and
Yeah.
helping researchers analyze data in the background. You're not going to see that, but it's going to influence your life. There's widespread applications for it, but it's not going there. There's no indication that we're going to have generalized artificial intelligence anytime soon,
Right.
and we're not all going to be like spending $100 a month on AI services. It's going to help. We're going to be using it a lot, but it's going, like I said, the best thing I can compare it to is like um auto suggest on your phone when you're typing. Like you
Yeah,
use it
that's
every
what.
day, but
Yeah,
you don't think about it.
yeah, but it's in the product recommendations you get and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, one problem with it is the energy cost and also all those graphics cards. And the second article I've seen in the last month that claims that they found a way to train it much faster. And this one, again, is easy to understand and it works the way humans understand. So instead of taking, so you have a sample of all this data you're trying to train your AI on, and some of that data is nice, clear pictures. If you're doing pictures, for example, some of those nice, clear pictures of animals right side up with good contrast, and others like messy pictures distorted with junk in the way. And if you don't train your model on just random data, but first you pre-process the data to find the clear, clean examples and you train it on that, then it learns 10 times faster, which makes all kinds of sense. And that's one. I also found that if you want to teach it the English language, it works a lot better if you give it like little kids' books, like the ones you started with, simple English for it to learn the way little kids do, instead of just throwing like Reddit at it and saying, figure out Reddit. If you go
Yes.
gradually through a simple one and a little bit harder and a little bit harder, the way we do, it of course learns faster and better. So, uh, that anyway, that's quite reasonable. But now they've proven it with a test. So, I think I think, for example, people buying the vast amounts of NVIDIA GPUs, that's going to be short term before we find more efficient ways to do things. And you don't really need such a vast amount of hardware and power to get the job done.
Yeah. So when I was in Ireland, I was with a bunch of other engineers, and of course, a lot of people are working on machine learning right now, and I'm in the devices um, division.
Hmm.
And one of the people working on devices worked on a project where basically it was like a robotic arm. It would use machine learning to figure out how to like throw the ball into a cup.
Hmm.
Um, and it would just have to train, right? And training, of course, is a long, expensive process. But they had some of the best mathematical minds working on it. And apparently they optimized the algorithms. So now it can train itself from nothing to being able to throw the ball into the cup in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Well, good. Yeah. And I think, just like teaching, like our profession, if you can teach people in a good way where they learn efficiently, or you can throw things that are too hard at them and frustrate them and make them fail.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to your next one.
Okay, so we have more satellites coming up pretty soon. Let's see. Okay, here we go. TechSpot has an article by Thubron. Rob Thubron. Basically, NATO is looking at how to reroute the internet if the undersea cables are cut. So this is a known vulnerability on the internet.
Yeah.
If you want to connect countries together, you do that through these giant undersea cables, which are super awesome. If you have time after the podcast and you've never heard of these undersea cables, do a Google search. You will be amazed. They basically lay down like thousands of kilometers worth of these cables under the sea, under the Atlantic, under the Pacific. They connect all the continents together and they're filled with like these giant bundles of fiber optics. And they have like checks along the way to make sure like nothing's going on. They have to be like super insulated. I mean, it's super cool. Um, but of course, this means that anyone with a submarine can go down and snip some like Australia's internet connection.
And
um,
I'm sure they get caught in anchors too. They get
yeah,
broken now.
they get broken and stuff happens. So they have ways to detect where it's broken, but it does take a while to fix and it's expensive. But that's the way the internet works, right? You have these land systems when you're on land, fiber optics, backbones, sending data to the ISPs. But then when you want to go across the Pacific or Atlantic, they go through one of these cables, so it becomes a choke point. Well, if a rogue nation were to take advantage of that, what do you do? And this is what NATO is deciding to do right now, which is if these cables go down, it should back up to a internet service provider. So it will reroute through something like Starlink or through like Viasat. They don't know any specific details yet about what they're going to do. Maybe it will be Project Kuiper that will be doing the backbone of the internet. But it's very interesting how they'll be doing this, and I look forward to see how they implement the space-based backbone of the internet.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be nice, but I doubt it has enough bandwidth at a low cost to compete with those undersea cables.
No, like I said, it's supposed to be a backup. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's the thing is that the undersea cables are like fiber optics and they're big. They're super big, super
yeah.
big cables that can transfer a ton of data. How would you do that using it would have to be it would if you want to do anything at any reasonable speeds, it would have to be sort of a mass um scale Kuiper Starlink blend type system where you have multiple um basically ground stations around your country. Like if you're looking at Australia, you would have like ground stations in Perth and ground stations in Sydney, and have multiple of them so you can get like, a bunch of data streams going from all over to different satellites.
Yeah.
That would be the only way to really make it work. And like I said, I'm interested to see how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, but I thought the internet was supposed to do this automatically. That was the whole point. If a cable is cut, it will just route another route around through the remaining links. So you shouldn't need to have to do anything more than just BGP to do this.
You would think,
Yeah.
but there's only so many cables going to different countries, um, and yeah, if you cut them all, I mean, I don't know how you would BGP. If you cut all the links from Australia, I don't know how you would BGP around that, but
Well, you couldn't cut the satellite links, which is the point. The only thing left would
yes,
be the satellite, and so traffic would go through there
exactly.
as long as it was just integrated with the same system.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So we were doing a cyber camp for the high school students, and one of them told me I didn't know about this about Rust Scan, which is the modern port scanner, much faster than Nmap. They claims it can scan 65,000 ports in 3 seconds. I haven't tried it, but that sounds pretty awesome. So I thought that was a pretty awesome tool, worth knowing about. And I got one other thing I might as well mention now. I thought it caught my attention. Microsoft has ordered their China staff to use only iPhones, and they are no longer going to be allowed to use Android. And I was surprised by that because Android is closely integrated with Microsoft and Windows, and iPhone is the evil hated enemy. But of course, the problem is that Google Play is blocked in China. So they cannot download any official apps. All they can do is download stuff from dodgy third-party sites. So Microsoft is really trying to improve their security because there are huge scandals right now after they lost congressional emails and stuff. So they're trying to use two-factor authentication, and they really want everyone to use the genuine Microsoft Authenticator app and a few other things like that. So they said, you got to use an iPhone. Don't even use an Android in China because there's no way we can really trust that you've got the right second factor apps on there. So that's interesting. And it's sort of Microsoft admitting that iPhone is better than Android. Of course, this is because Apple obeyed Chinese law and censored the store to comply with the government requirements. So the store is still available, and Android didn't. So anyway, it's an interesting story with quite a few dimensions. And let's go back to you. You got another
Okay.
disaster.
Yeah, well, disaster or good business opportunity, investment opportunity, if you will. Um, so let's throw up the browser. Okay. International Business Times of the UK has this article by Teddy Cambosa. And I think we talked about this a bit earlier in the podcast, but AI is using a lot of power. uh, a lot of power. In fact, um, power usage is up by like 0.4%, and it's going to go. The power demand rose 0.4% per year over the past 10 years.
That's not
And
much.
then, well, I mean, considering that there's a bunch of like industries that are like drilling and doing, smelting and stuff like that,
But I heard that
it's,
electric cars in California were going to double what you needed out of the grid all by themselves.
I don't know. Anyway, but it's going up and up and up. Data centers, artificial intelligence, centers, etc. They're really pushing for a lot of this energy usage. Gen AI is using a lot of power. Oracle said that they are making 70 megawatt data centers And let's see, they're going 200 megawatts, which is like, which they say is the power of a city. So, what does this mean for you? It means that if you want a hot investment opportunity, the power grid and power companies are a good bet. So Nvidia and power companies, those are the real winners of Gen AI.
Well, yeah, and I think they're both going to become less important quickly as we switch to more efficient AI.
I I hope so. I hope we switch to more efficient AI soon. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I trust the market. If the power price goes up, it'll be more and more economically favorable to make your AI more efficient.
Yep.
Well, I got one more, which I thought was the most interesting one. It ended up last in my list, sort of at random. But they have this new system of Wi-Fi routers. It's a website called New Atlas has written about it. And what they do is you buy a series of these routers. It makes a mesh network in your home, and it now watches the reflection as you and your dog and everything walk around your home. And it uses AI to learn what pattern of Wi-Fi signals indicate normal people are walking through your home, and it then sets off an alarm if a strange person comes in your home. This seems actually pretty brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's and it's one of the things that I was concerned about. So because I have AstroCat,
Yeah.
I have these cameras all over my apartment for when I'm
Mhm.
gone, which also means that I have cameras in the bathroom and all this stuff. And I specifically don't have them recording or anything, and they're just there when I'm away so I can keep tags on AstroCat. But it is a little weird having this many cameras in my apartment.
Yeah.
But if I could just use the Wi-Fi instead to track the cat or do something, that'd be
Yes.
even better.
I know. I think it's brilliant. I mean, it wouldn't really invade your privacy very much because it's got a resolution of like 3 centimeters. So it can just tell like the basic size, like a blurry image of how big an object is walking around, not like any details. It seems like a really brilliant idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for this.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I've got. You got anything else?
No, no, that's it.
All right, that's it for this one. And I'll make another one of these on Friday, again in the afternoon. These are all going to be done in the evening for the next 3 weeks because I'm teaching in the morning.